Allison McGovern is a 2016 graduate from Binghamton High School and a 2020 graduate from Mansfield University with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and a minor in Watershed Management. She has been a Broome County employee for 5.5 years and is currently the Materials Recovery Manager, which is a post she has held for the past 3 years. So thank you, Allison, and go ahead and enlighten us about recycling.
Thank you. All right, so my name is Allison. I'm the Materials Recovery Manager for Broome County Solid Waste. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the landfill. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty much an extension of the landfill itself. So I don't work personally at the landfill, but I manage what goes on up there in the recycling aspects. So similar, same, not really, but very similar, really go hand in hand with what goes on up at the landfill. I work downtown at the Broome County office building. So if you ever need anything, I'm down there on the 5th floor. Sometimes I make a rare appearance to the landfill, but it's pretty much for storage of our bins and actual recycling. Oh, there we go. Oh, getting a little crazy here. All right, so most of what I deal with is recycling, reuse, anything along those lines. Recycling is defined by the EPA of the process of collecting and processing materials that would otherwise be thrown away as trash and turning them into new products. So you can recycle many different things in many different ways. When you think of recycling, you usually think of plastics, anything curbside, but we can go into many different topics here. We will on recycling. So this could go from plastic recycling. If you walked in and you saw the jar openers that are tire, those are recycled from tires. So that's another version of recycling that we run into at the Broome County landfill is tire recycling. We also do scrap metal, waste oil, oil filters, antifreeze, bulk rigid plastic. You know, there's a bunch of different things that we can get into that are based off of recycling. All right, so there's many reasons to choose recycling. Most importantly, it reduces landfill waste. So that's kind of our main goal is we're trying to reduce as much waste as we can that goes into the landfill because we're running out of landfill space. At the end of the day, we're trying not to make more landfills. We're trying to reduce our footprint into that landfill and make use of what we have in different ways. So that's why we're trying to reduce, reuse, recycle as much as we can, repurpose things, refuse different items, and keep our landfill the same size because we don't have room to expand. And New York State is getting a little iffy with if they're allowing more landfills to be developed or not. They're pretty much trying to nix it. That way we're not creating more landfills to leach into our environment. Another thing is that we conserve natural resources. So we're trying to reduce the amount that we are taking off this planet as well. Again, reducing that environmental footprint. We want to keep as much on the planet as we can and keep it as natural as possible so we can extend the life of our planet. Again, it saves energy as well. It requires a lot less energy to break things that already exist down into simpler products and then remake them from there rather than processing that whole raw material. It reduces pollution as well. Again, resource extraction and manufacturing. There's a lot more that goes into new products as they come out from the earth as raw materials. And number 5, it's cool. It's a new thing. Obviously, we're trying to get more and more cool as we go. So we're trying to make recycling the best, coolest, newest thing on the planet as we go along. It's obviously been around for years and years, but changes are being made every single day. It's something that's never going to be the same. It's always going to be changing. So that's why we're trying to get out as much as possible and keep you guys updated as well as we can. All right, so this is our waste hierarchy. At the top, we have the most desirable ways of reducing waste and the least desirable. Hold on. Oh. It's just gonna come up. So this is what we want to do the most, and this is what we want to do the least. So the least obviously is going to be our landfill disposal. Is the least desirable way to get rid of this waste. We want to reduce as much as possible, keeping it into our manufacturing system, reducing consumerism, and just overall trying to consume less and reduce what you need. Try to use what you have, thrift as much as you can, everything along those lines. That brings us down to reuse, again, thrifting, cleaning, repairing, refurbishing, things that you might not have use for that somebody else might have use for, and passing on to different people. Pretty much just keeping it in the system so we don't have to use all the energy and pollute with new materials. Then we moved on to recycling. So again, turning waste into a new substance, or composting even is considered recycling to a point. We're trying to make new substances out of old things that we consider waste. So anything that's waste that's turning into something new, again, is recycling, which could be tires, waste oil, scrap metal, as long as it's becoming a new product. The next least desirable option is recovery, anaerobic digestion, incineration. We really don't want to do that, but it's an option if we have to. It's not something that we really consider at the landfill, but this is just general kind of talking here, as we can recover energy from burning of these materials if we have to. Last but not least, disposal in the landfill. This is our worst case scenario, is putting things in the landfill because they're never going to come back. We can't really do anything with it. We're trying to reduce and reuse as much as we can before we get to that point, so it doesn't enter the landfill. Once it enters the landfill, it's going to be covered. It's going to be buried with different materials like contaminated soil, auto fluff, depending on which landfill you're at. Sometimes it's glass, but once it's buried, it's hopefully going to break down, but there's no promises on that because of the structure of the landfill. So landfill is the last worst case scenario of our waste disposal. So we try to hit every layer of this hierarchy before we hit the landfill. All right, so going into curbside recycling. So we have a single stream bin system here in Broome County. So these bins may look familiar. You may have yellow ones, but we now have blue ones just because the resin is cheaper within the bid. So we put out to bid and we get bids back, and they kind of go on whatever's cheapest, whoever has the cheapest price, and what bins are the sturdiest, and what resin or plastic is the cheapest at this time. So these are our new bins. We used to have 12-gallon bins, but now these are 22-gallon bins on your left here. These ones are a little bit taller, but still relatively smaller. Then on the right is a 32-gallon round bins, a little bit bigger, a little bit sturdier, but again, it's whatever you can handle, how much recycling you're going through each week. So we use a single stream system, which means there's only one collection system, one single stream that we all put our recycling in. So everything that is recyclable goes in one bin, one single bin. So this is pretty much to promote recycling, to try to make it easier for the residents to get them an easier way to recycle that's not as much of a hassle. So it's more inviting to the user on what to use. So this is what we use in Broome County, unless you have a private hauler. So going into that, public versus private haulers, this is would be a private system. They have a split body truck, and it really just depends on where you live, where you're from, kind of deal. Town of Union, Village of Endicott, Village of Johnson City, City of Binghamton, all have municipal haulers. So they will come up in their trucks. It's usually included in their taxes, and that will have your blue bin system, curbside. If you have a private hauler, that is something that you have to contract through and pay yourself, and they might have different toter carts or different bins based on what location they're servicing. Something that we're seeing a lot these days is these split body trucks. So you can see that there's a left system here and a right system on the side. So if you're concerned about your recycling and garbage being picked up in the same truck, it might be a split body truck. So now that we're becoming a little bit more advanced, it cuts down on the need for drivers. It cuts down on the need for fuel, time, etc. So if you have concerns about it being picked up in the same truck, please consider these split body trucks, and, you know, you feel free to call your hauler or, your municipality. The municipalities don't really have it right now. It's more of a private hauler. So if you have any questions like that, feel free to give us a call or ask your hauler, and they can give you a little bit of an explanation as to what's going on. But if there's any source of contamination, feel free to call me and I will investigate it myself. So if you don't have a private hauler, or if you want to take care of the recycling yourself, we do have recycling at our landfill up on Knapp Road in Binghamton. So this is one of our roll-off carts. We have 2 roll-offs that are separate. There's one for corrugated cardboard, and the other one is just everything else that is considered recyclable. So the only thing that we separate out is cardboard at the landfill. You can go right up, help yourself. It's completely free. You don't even have to go across the scale. It's right when you go in the residential entrance to the right. You can go right up there and put it all in there, and you don't have to worry about it from there because we'll take care of it. So where does it go from there? So whether it goes from the landfill or it goes from your curbside containers, it has to go to a materials recovery facility. So we call those MRFs, MRF for short. But the materials recovery facility is where it all goes. So since it's a single stream, this is where everything gets processed. So this is where everything is broken down and separated from there. So we don't do anything specifically at the landfill with the separation of any plastics, metals, any kind of materials like that. We just collect it and take it to the materials recovery facility. And that depends on the year, on what kind of contract we have, on who's going to take it. There are 2 materials recovery facilities local. One of them is Burt Adams, and the other one is Taylor Garbage or Casella. Casella Waste has bought Taylor Garbage in the recycling facility. So there's going to be different rules at different places. It really just depends on what our contract is for the year. So currently we have Casella at the landfill, and that's what most people are going to have. So again, this is our materials recovery facility. Items are all dumped. Pretty much the truck comes in, backs up, dumps it right on in the floor space, and they scoop it up and they put it on this conveyor belt system. So there are live people that work at the materials recovery facility. So that's where things get tricky, and that's where a lot of our rules come in. So these people are usually referred to as pickers, and that's where it gets tricky when we recycle things, because we are putting people's lives in danger when we don't recycle properly. So if we recycle something in wish cycle and want it to be recycled, they will have to pick it out themselves, or it can contaminate a load. So it gets dumped onto this conveyor belt, and they're kind of fluffed up in a rotating compacted materials are kind of fluffed up in a rotating drum, kind of like a dryer. Like when you put your wet clothes in the dryer and it fluffs them up and it separates them out, that kind of gets everything separated. So it's easier to pick through and easier to look at. Anything that could be a contaminant, a tangler, food waste, that is picked out as best they can through the pickers and the pick line. They're trying to get a little bit of artificial intelligence in there, hopefully down the road, to kind of get rid of the physical workers being needed, trying to separate things better, trying to save the workload and save the danger of being on that line. So that's something that's getting pushed in down the road. It's not something that we have super locally, but it's definitely something that they're trying to put into place in the future to really separate mostly plastics and make sure that nothing's contaminated.
This is a rather alarming picture because that screen is full of plastic bags.
Yep.
Which we are not supposed to recycle.
Yep.
That means that these poor souls have to pull every stinking bag out of there.
Yep, so if it was something like that, they would have to take out every single bag.
Wait, does it look that bad at our landfill?
No.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll reassure you on that.
Is this a generic picture?
This is just a generic picture. This is just a
sample?
sample of what could happen and what, if there's gonna be that much contamination in there, hypothetically, it could be a whole load that's contaminated. So that's something that could just be disposed of. So, they really go through and they pick out as much as they can, contaminant wise. We'll get into contaminants in a minute. But once it hits that line, it fluffs up in that drum. And then it kind of keeps going and it kind of keeps fluffing up. So there is rubber stars. So a star made out of rubber that they all line up next to each other. There's multiple, and they kind of fluff things up and continue them going. So things are sorted out by weight at this point, and different material types. So again, heavy materials will fall through, like the metals, the glass, the harder plastics. Those will fall through, and things like cardboard will float off the top, paper as well. So there's different sections for different material types. Once the glass falls through, it's crushed and it's usually screened out, taken to different facilities like that. Like locally, we have Claw. They take crushed glass and put it into like concrete and different material types like that. So they definitely have an interesting operation going on over there. If you want to talk to them, Jacob is a great guy, and they handle a lot of the glass from different materials recovery facilities. Again, magnets are used to pull out ferrous containers, that all of them that contain iron will come right up. That's how they separate the different types of metal, and they get it to the different markets. Eddy currents are also getting aluminum, non-ferrous materials. They kind of just pull it and they fly off and they collect it outside of the conveyor belt. And then again, plastics drop out. So it really just depends on the specific materials recovery facility that you're at, is which way that they're gonna have it like in order. Whether they, take glass first, or if they take glass and plastic and they collect cardboard over here rather than over there. It really just depends on the materials recovery facility that you're at.
Excuse me, so both Burt Adams and Casella have these sophisticated systems?
So it really depends on, sorry, I'm gonna look at you but not blind myself. So it really just depends on which one you're going at. So with Casella buying Taylor Garbage, in their recycling facility, they have more connections and they have, more funding sources to upgrade their systems. Burt Adams hasn't really,
And
he's a smaller collection type. So Casella usually takes a lot of municipalities and things like that.
Casella's facility is in Broome County,
It's in Owego.
Owego.
Where is Broome County's material recovery facility?
So there's two of there. We have Casella and then we have Burt Adams, and that's where it just depends on where you're going through. So our stuff is separate based on where they take it from.
So you use those two private firms to sort the recycling that gets picked up by the municipalities in this area?
So it depends on the year and the contracts again. So it really just depends on who's bidding what, who has the capacity to take certain things. Burt Adam usually does more of his own private collection, because that's what he can handle. And then Casella usually does a lot of the municipalities, trying to keep it local, trying to keep it separated from different counties. Municipalities handle their own, so we oversee all of their collection. So we kind of set the rules, regulations. We provide bins as needed, but we do not physically collect it ourselves. So we don't have the kind of staffing to handle any of that. So whatever they do, so if I live in the city of Binghamton, the city of Binghamton themselves and their Public Works Association is gonna pick up my recycling and they're gonna truck it themselves. Everything that goes to the landfill, so if I brought my materials to the landfill, our landfill staff takes those roll-offs that I showed previously and drives them there to Casella ourselves. So it's not, unfortunately, we don't collect everything at the landfill. We did at one time because of the fire that was at the materials recovery facility. A little wishy-washy there, but we don't do any of the processing ourselves. We contract out to a materials recovery facility depending on the year. So everything is pretty much depending on whose contract says what, whose rules and regulations, because everyone's different. Every government entity is different, fortunately.
So the county contracts with Casella now,
Currently,
and
yes.
they contract for all the towns and cities to go there.
They handle it themselves. So like City of Binghamton will put out a contract. Ours is specifically a bid. It could be a request for quotes, it could be a request for proposal, it could be a request for bid. It just really depends on the capacity that they're putting it out as. But our capacity, we have to do it for a request for bid for the price range that we have. So I put out a bid, and we, you know, depending on the radius of where we're looking. So we try to keep ours local, so we put a radius on ours, on who can bid, pretty much.
So I don't want to get in the weeds, but we're in the town union, so the town union trucks the garbage to the landfill and they truck recycles to a Weaver.
If that's where the contract is correct.
Okay.
So the garbage comes to the landfill. The recycling goes elsewhere to that materials recovery facility. So this is the tricky part about recycling, this is the tricky part about my job. Believe me or not. This is where it comes in, where you can do your own research, you can do everything and look different ways. So this is just how we do it, and this is how we understand it for now. Everyone does everything different. When I went to school in Mansfield, in Pennsylvania, we had to separate everything in different bins. So every number was different, every material type was different, every size was different, and they picked it up at different times. So that's, you know, if you had one thing wrong, they would never take that load that day. You would have to reevaluate your entire load. So, you know, the thing about recycling is that it's always changing and there's always something new. So that's where my job gets tough. And that's where it gets tough to be a resident, honestly, because if I was a resident, I'd be confused. That's the tough part. So again, there's a lot of weeds that we could go through, but this is just how it goes. Garbage goes one way, recycling goes the other. That's how it goes. All right, we're back. So after the materials recovery facility, so once they get there, they separate it all out by material type. They will bale it, or if you know, if they have to crush it, they'll crush it. They usually just bale it and move on. So our northeast region, a lot of it stays within there. So we contract with a materials recovery facility and they handle it from there. They have different contracts based on the markets and the market prices where they ship it off to. They try to keep it in the northeast region. Specifically when I talk to Casella, they try to keep it in the northeast region as best they can. Sometimes it's going up to Canada, but it's usually staying in North America to a point. So if it has to go, it goes, but a lot of the regulations have changed. And there's been different countries that don't want the specific type of plastics anymore. So we try to keep it as localized as possible. So it could be reused, recycled, anything like that. So these are just some examples. So once you get a bale, if you have a bale of plastic juice bottles or detergent bottles, you can make buckets, you can make tracks lumber, you can make play sets, you can make frisbees, anything. Really, you can mix up plastics and make something new. So out of plastics that we've recycled, we can make pens that are up front. So those are mostly made out of recycled bottles, but that's an example of what plastic can be made into. It can be made into these chairs. As long as it's not something that needs specific types of plastic, it really can be made into anything. A lot of dollar store items are a lot of the lower level plastics that we recycle. Newspaper, some examples, you know, berry boxes, paperboard, kitty litter, regular newspaper again, construction paper, paper plates, anything, you know, there's a lot of different examples of what things can be made into. And there's a lot more than this, but these are just some general examples.
At home, we have a Broome County recycling guide, and if I recall correctly, it says no egg cartons, but your egg cartons is on the list.
So that's something that newspaper can be made into.
Oh, I see. Cardboard egg carton.
Yes. So we'll get into egg cartons for sure in a second, I promise.
Thank you.
But this is what like a newspaper can be made into. Egg cartons are kind of the end of the line, so we'll get in that into a minute. All right, big topic here, resin code. Are we in or are we out? So the resin code it's the resin identification code. It's the number on the bottom of your plastics that comes in a little triangle. It looks pretty much just like this, and it usually has the material type underneath it, abbreviated. So what is it? It pretty much is telling manufacturers what that material is made out of, and that's it. It's not a guide, as of Broome County rules. Broome County has changed and we are gone, those are out with the times. So we do not rely on resin codes for anything usually. We don't do 2 through 6, we don't do 1 through 7. We go by material type now. So this is just telling you what it's made out of and what goes into it. So if it's made out of PET or if it's HDPE, PVC, it's good to know what's in it, but we really don't need anything more than that. So
I'm sorry, so we don't have to worry about when recycling plastic is plastic.
We don't have to look at the numbers anymore.
correct. So we do not have to look at the numbers. Numbers are out.
Okay.
It's nice to know what they're made out of. But this is an old graphic. So you can see here. Where is it? Oh, I can't see anything. So one of them says. Oh, I can't read it. So we're gonna go this way. Oh, all right, number 5. Pile of propylene over here. So you can see that it says hangers right here. So that says recycled products. This is what it can be made into, but it doesn't mean it's recyclable. So there's different examples. So polystyrene, that is our styrofoam. If we said 2 through 6, then we would be including our styrofoam products, but we don't recycle styrofoam anymore. Styrofoam is so lightweight and it's such a pain to break down. You don't really get money for the weight because it's so light. So there's so much that goes into recycling it, it's not worth it. So that's something that's moved out. So these are just examples of what it's made out of. You know, common things that are made out of PET is water bottles, cups, clamshells, things like that. It's just pretty much telling you what it's made out of, what kind of plastic's in it. It's not really something that we can go for sure, because there's so many things that are, we're trying to recycle so much that things are changing. So there's so many different plastics in it that, you know, we're just trying to go by material type, material category rather than material type. So it's very confusing. I'll give you that, but we're gonna go over it a little bit more as we go along. So pretty much out of this slide, resin codes are out. It's nice to know, nice to have the information, nice to know what goes in it, but we're not relying on it for recycling curbside. So here's our quick guide. Again, we're gonna go into more detail than this, but this is on our magnets up front here. If anybody needs them, but this is just our quick guide, our general, what's in, what's out. Again, plastics, we go by, our resin codes are out, so we're going by our general category. Our bottles, our jugs, containers, are pretty much our main plastic types. We're not going by those resin codes. Glass, metal, cardboard, newspaper, those are all green, good to go. Yes, please put those in your curbside bins. Red, no thank you, please don't. We got our plastic bags and wraps. This is curbside again. I'll get into plastic bags and wraps in a minute, but this is curbside recycling only. We said no to styrofoam again, no food left in containers. That's where it's gonna get tricky. And our food containers, which we'll discuss in a minute. And then our tanglers, anything that's going to stop our recycling machines is considered a tangler. Ropes, hoses, wires, Christmas lights, hangers, anything, plastic bags even. If you are gonna put it in there and it's gonna get stuck. I tell the kids when I go to schools, if you put your fingers through your hair and it gets stuck and it gets tangled, that's pretty much what happens in the recycling world. It hits those rubber stars that we talked about earlier and it stops it. Those pickers have to go in and get that.
Yeah.
And they have to get it out themselves. So again, that's putting them in danger and it's stopping the recycling facility for that prolonged period of time. So nothing can move forward from there because of the danger.
I have a question about the metal cans. You know, I always take the tops off the cans and I throw the tops in the garbage because I think that they are dangerous to be held. You can cut yourself.
Mhm.
But should I be recycling those tops?
Yep,
I mean, they're sharp. They are, you know.
Yeah, so if you think about it, even the inside of the can is gonna be sharp. I usually put mine in the can, so that way I know it's gonna make it.
Okay,
But they're big enough to be put in there.
they are, okay. Just,
If you like previous containers for food, so how thoroughly do you have to clean it? So that,
We're gonna get into that, okay?
okay.
I promise. If not, yell at me.
Yeah.
Again, so this is just a cute graphic that we try to put out there. We're trying to get as much information out to the public as we can on social media. Keeping our general categories, paper, cardboard, plastic, metal, glass, and cartons. So this is just our general items that we can do, but we're gonna break it down a little bit more in our recycling guide. So these are our dues, things that we are gonna do, but if you have a recycling guide, they're up front here. You can take them on your way out. We're gonna go through this in a minute in a little bit more detail. So this is gonna relate to this section. So for our dues, we have newspaper, magazines, folders, books, printer paper, anything like that. That's our big paper category. You can do junk mail, you can do magazines, you can do inserts, you can do envelopes with the windows in them.
Really?
Yep.
What about glossy paper, magazines that have glossy
Yep.
paper? You do that also?
Yep. So you can just throw those in there. It's all gonna be, shredded paper is a no for curbside recycling. It's something that could be broken apart
Oh.
and stick to things. So that's the big thing, is it could
you
stick to
throw
things.
away shredded paper.
Correct. Certain private haulers do take it certain times, but again, that's them.
What did you just say was no,
Shredded paper,
shredded paper?
yes. So even if you put it, they usually like to put it in the paper bags. They used to do that.
Yeah.
Again, that's something that can get wet, disintegrate, and it could stick to different items.
So you just throw it in the garbage?
Correct. Yep. So that's why we hold shredding events. And we try to get that to be, we're trying to get that to be a more normal thing so we can handle it for you.
So, so if we bring it to a shredding event, then it's recycled.
Yep, so we hold a shredding event, past couple of years we've been holding it, but it's gonna continue to move forward, at SUNY Broome and on Upper Front Street. So bring your paper, we'll shred up to 4 boxes for you. We unload it for you. We only do it once a year through Broome County, but there are different, banks that are holding it, different community
Yeah.
things, so we try to share as much as possible, but we only have the funding and time for once a year.
But if we have a little shredder at home, we can just put it in the garbage.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yep,
Now, these milk cartons have, plastic spouts. Do they get separated in the facility?
they do not. So if it's, we'll get into a little bit more, but if it's a different material type and you keep it separate, it's just gonna go garbage. So we'll talk about that in a minute with the different sizes. So for cardboard, our general, any kind of cereal boxes, non-greasy pizza boxes, we got into this a little bit earlier. So our pizza boxes, if you see them and they're completely covered in grease and they're drenched, we just say put them in the garbage. If they've got cheese on them, same thing. If they've got an excess amount, this is where you kind of have to use your better judgment, and we rely on you to kind of use your thoughts here. Pizza boxes are something that are big enough that could be picked out if it's too greasy. So it's, something that's a little less harmless in the picker line. But if it has only a little bit of grease, fine, they can handle it. But anything with a lot of grease or pepperoni or cheese on it, we ask you to just throw it away. If you have one where the bottom's soiled and the top's not, you can cut off the top, put that right in the recycling bin. That way we can get as much as possible, back into the system. Single layer boxes, corrugated cardboard, again, that's something that we separate out at the landfill, but feel free to put it right in your bin at home. Cartons, milk and juice cartons, again, we'll get into the caps in a minute. Any color of glass, we accept. Clear, brown, green, and bottles, we accept curbside. Plastics, we do drink containers, shampoo bottles, small totes, reusable items, reusable food containers like mayonnaise, peanut butter, that we ask you to rinse. So we'll get a little bit into that as well. Tin cans, aluminum cans.
On the plastic, can't recycle prescription bottles.
Not the orange ones. You cannot recycle the orange prescription bottles. You are
So how
correct.
about the blue? I might.
I did the same. I think they're the same thing.
The vets use blue.
Yeah, so like the ones that you actually have to go and pick up from pharmacy or like a vet's office, those are not recyclable. But if you go to like Sam's Club and you get like acetaminophen in the big bottles that are white,
Okay.
feel free to recycle those. Any
They're
like
white.
vitamin containers, things like that, but it's just the small orange and blue ones that they don't take. Metals, we do tin cans, aluminum cans, any kind of pans that are clean, like aluminum pans and aluminum foil, if it's cleaned, we ask that you don't ball it up, just leave it, flat, fold it a little bit if you want to. We just ask that you don't ball it. Tin cans, aluminum cans, you can leave the labels on, they'll get handled at materials recovery facility. Don't worry about that. Don'ts, big thing is food. So this is where it gets tricky with the food containers. We say no to food containers, like takeout containers, because of food contamination. Food contamination is a huge issue. If you say to somebody, yeah, you know, you can recycle your to-go container, but you gotta take the food out, you gotta make sure there's no chicken wing bones in there, and they don't read the fine print, that food's gonna end up at the materials recovery facility. So in order to keep it as least contaminated as possible, we say no to food containers. Hopefully down the line, they'll start expanding the programs a little bit more to like Dunkin' Donuts cups and coffee cups and things like that that are plastic with lids. But as of right now, they're still saying no, just because of the contamination risk that we run. If you want to scrub them and be a perfect recycler,
Yeah, but then they still don't take it.
we're wishy-washy here. So like, if the berry containers that you get are clean and they don't have any mold or moldy berries in them, and you want to make sure that there's absolutely nothing in them, proceed. Go right
How
ahead.
about all those plastic salads?
Yeah, so this is where it gets tricky. So like if you get spaghetti and you see that ring, you know the ring I'm talking about. Like it's, no matter how many times you wash it, it's still gonna be greasy. So, you know, I think something's clean versus my sister's version of clean. My sister, one scrub clean, great. If I see that ring, I'm never the same. I am a very clean freak. So like, again, this is where it's tricky because there's different interpretations of clean. I wear this right here one day, put it back in the closet. It could be clean. But me personally, if I wear this for 5 minutes, it's dirty. I have to put it in laundry. So that's kind of where it goes. It's very much interpretation based. So that's why we have to keep it. That's why we have to keep it the same. So.
I'm confused what you're saying, because you're saying you could wash out some food container real clean and that would be okay, but when it gets down to the sorting facility, they don't know what's been washed and what's not. They're still gonna have to check all those things out.
So they're talking about like actual food. So like if you get peanut butter and you're trying to wash it.
I'm saying, look, you have plastics, glass of Coke, and you drink it, and you wash it out, and I have it, and I rinse it, but it's still got sugar in it, obviously. When those two cups get down to the sorting station, the sorters don't know which one's been washed and which ones hasn't. They have to throw them all out. Like you can't make the decisions at the consumer end, because at the sorting place, they don't know what's truly clean and what's not.
Yeah, and again, this is where it's up for interpretation. This is the rules that we get from our recycling facility. And this is what we follow, and we try to help them as best we can. But again, everything is interpreted differently as a consumer. So we just say flat out, no to food containers, like to-go containers, because of the risk of actual food being in them.
You're saying, no, we don't care if you washed it or not. Do not,
Yes.
do not. Thank you.
Yep.
So
That's what-
that's the same for those, we buy salad in those big tubs instead of the plastic bags. The big tubs, you know, big size
Little leaf
salad.
salad, yeah.
Yeah, like.
The plastic,
Lessons, that's all they sell.
and you have lettuce in there.
Yeah, again, up for interpretation, as long as it's not, you know,
Well, it holds food.
but it's not like a takeout container from a
Not like
restaurant.
takeout food.
So like
food.
takeout containers and food containers
Mhm.
are technically
it-
different.
How did it, I don't know. I remember when they didn't want the black ones, because that's what I would take out.
Yeah, so we still don't take the black ones because of the sorting. Black food containers still have the chemicals that go along with their color, and they don't get sorted properly due to the sorting machine using lights. They use lights to reflect off of infrared lights to reflect off of, so they don't get picked up as much.
I'm just wondering, why you care about food at all. plastic containers, you would think that any kind of recycling process, you wind up heating the plastic considerably to some very high temperature, where you might expect the food to decompose anyway.
Yeah, so
Where does the problem come in?
it's coming with like physical food. So again, the fine print and, you know, unfortunately, we can't trust everyone to think the same.
Yeah.
That's just the hard truth about it. And it's, you know, the physical food, you know, somebody could think that the food container is recyclable with a meatball in it or chicken wing bones. Stuff like that is something that could open up and transfer. But if it's something that's like peanut butter or mayo, you know, we obviously ask that you rinse them and clean them out. But that's stuff that can be handled at that level. It's not as much of a physical food as a,
Yeah.
like something that can transfer.
So it's the amount of resin.
Pretty much.
I don't know if this is correct, but I'm thinking maybe what they're worried about is, like cockroaches and mice and rats and, other critters that, could end up infesting the recycling trucks and the sorting machines and conveyor belts and all that type of stuff. Is that really more of what they're worried about?
Yes, as well. So that's another great point is that, you know, when you bring food in with things that are supposed to be clean, things that are, you know, not garbage, things that you want to reuse and recycle, you have to worry about animals, you have to worry about, you know, their feces, if they're, you know, if they're deceased and, you know, you don't know that they're there, you're pretty much trying to keep that facility as clean as possible. So again, any lack of food that, you know, food that we can keep out of there, we're trying to do as much as possible to keep that facility up and moving. Again, because they can cause shortages in wires and they can, you know, clog up the machines, and if they, you know, could cause fires, very much could cause a lot of damage to the facilities. So again, recycling is tricky. Explaining it is trickier, I swear. So I'm trying to make it as easy as I can, but trust me, I get tripped up a lot on my words. So if you are confused, please catch me if you can. Yes,
So, real quick question, so all the things we have listed there, then they would go in the landfill, right?
correct, unless you have another use for them. Again, we could try to reuse them. So, to go through here, like if you, let's see, egg cartons are a big one. So egg cartons, like we were talking about earlier, whether they're styrofoam or they're regular newspaper, they're gonna be garbage. Egg cartons are the last stop for the paper fibers. So when they break down, you really can't turn those paper fibers, they're so short that you can't turn them into something new. So when I see egg cartons out there, you know, I really urge you to find a farmer, find a friend that has chickens, you know, anybody on the side of the road, please take my egg cartons. It's recycling's never been convenient. You know, reducing waste is not always convenient, but it's the thought that we're trying to put into it and preserving the environment that counts. I had this conversation with somebody at an event prior, you know, we pay, Broome County pays for them to process our recycling. You know, we don't make money off of it. We do get revenue off of certain items, you know, like cardboard, if depending on the market, you know, we do have market rate changes, but it's for the bigger idea of reducing waste. You know, composting isn't, you don't want to go and have to turn your compost pile, you know, all the time, but it's the effort that counts and the waste reduction and the impact on the environment that we're going for. It's not always the money. It's not always the time, you know. If you could save your egg cartons and give it to somebody that could use it rather than putting them in the landfill, that's where we're kind of going. Yeah.
Do you think a farmer's market might be a good place to find, small farmers that might be willing to take egg cartons and put their own label on them?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can always, if you're interested as a group, you can always, it's better like to collect things if you want to, see if there's any farmers at farmers markets. You can post them on, you know, like Binghamton Free Cycle or any, you know, Broome County Facebook pages. Like I just got stuff for free off of Broome County free items or something. There's different groups. There's groups for everything on Facebook. honestly. So if you collect them as a group and you can move forward, as a group, you can always do that. That way it's not each and every one of you going out. It can kind of be like a group effort. You know, sometimes you can even see if the library wants to take them and do projects with them. A lot of the young kids like making them into caterpillars. You know, you can pair that with the book Hungry Hungry Caterpillars. You can paint them, give them a different life. I have one that's a crocodile that's out of a tissue box. So
There's a new group that's doing, craft recycling. So it's all raw materials for making things.
oh, really?
Yeah, and who are they? I just found them on Facebook.
Yeah, so
They're new, they've been at the farmer's market a couple of times, giving away their stuff
Mhm.
that they crafted.
yeah,
But they're also, you know, they're collecting material, any paints, paper. that
Yeah.
Could be used for art, or, you know, their cartons might have a use too.
Yeah.
But wool, yarn, anything that can be made in.
yeah, that's what, like, that's, you know, if instead of going to the landfill at that last step of our waste hierarchy, we want to see if we can either reduce it, you know, see if you can buy eggs from a farmer and bring your own container and switch it out each week, and that way it's keeping going in the system. Or we can reuse it and, you know, hold different pieces of jewelry, or, you know, put pins in it, anything, use it for painting. Give it an extra life before we have to actually dispose of it.
I just want to mention, there is somebody at the Vestal Farmers Market, right, or in the parking lot, that does accept a card, say, from somebody.
Perfect. I don't know if everyone heard that. There is somebody out in the Vestal Farmers Market that does accept ag cards. So anything to give them another life, we try to do, trying to do that first. Is there a time that we're booted out of here?
Yeah.
No? I mean, if anybody wants to leave, you can leave at any time. Ask your question and leave if you need to. Because we can go on for hours about this, but I don't have a timeline. But I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. Haven't done that so far, but we're trying. So all of these are big don'ts, but they're not, this is don't recycle them curbside. So plastic bags, red bags, plastic wrappers, things along those lines, we can recycle in different ways, but they're not recycled curbside. Electronic waste, scrap metals, cords and wires, again, we have different programs for that, but they're not recycled curbside.
Can you give an example of a wax covered cardboard cone?
So anything that you could put your finger in and kind of scrape up, they don't really make it a ton anymore. It's, you know, older like freezer items. If you can put your finger on it and you can peel up the wax. And kind of, yeah. Yeah, so they're trying to like revamp stuff as we go
Yeah,
along.
I'm trying to
That's
think
kind
what
of,
I have in the house.
that's what, there's not really much anymore, but it's just one of those things that
Yeah.
we say no to. Another big thing is coffee pods, like the Keurigs.
Yeah.
That's a no thank you.
So like, in the store, if you buy like a carton, a carton of all those aren't bad.
No, so it is like a little bit, but it's not to that extent. Yep, so those are gonna be, the aseptic containers. So those are good. As long as it's not like thick, waxy. So those are just gonna be aseptic containers. Cartons to say, not exactly wax covered cardboard. So,
Including the ones that are multi-layer that have a plastic film in the middle of them?
like what?
Well, like juice boxes, when you poke that straw through the top, you can see that there's actually a plastic film in between some of the cardboard, so it's a multi-layer thing, that's not just cardboard.
Yeah, so things like, what's a good example? Like a Pringles container, things that like that are like multi-layered with like plastic, wax, kind of cardboard and, word I'm looking for, like foily,
Yeah,
those are just regular garbage. But anything, if it's got a little bit on it, it's not gonna be the end of the world. It's usually just the top of the container that has kind of that barrier to it. So it's not the end of the world. It's still being reused.
and that's true for the caps that was mentioned earlier too, the plastic caps that are on the big cardboard, like milk container or whatever.
So caps are gonna be different. We'll get into that.
Okay.
I promise. I'm trying. Okay, so again, this is our recycling guide. The front of it, wow, magical. So all of these, brochures that we have listed over here are also available on our website. If you don't have anything, if you need a link to it, just let me know and I can direct you. So this is where we start breaking things down a little bit more. We try to give a little bit more direction on things that are recyclable and are not recyclable. So again, for the plastic recycling on the right-hand side of our screen, where it says I'm talking, that is where we break down our containers a little bit more. And we kind of get into the plastic details instead of the numbers. So we try to hit as many container types as possible. If there's anything that's not on there, you can always give me a call and I can look into it for you. I'm the recycling coordinator. I'm not the recycling expert. I try my best. So if there's anything crazy and I don't know the answer to it, I will look it up for you. But this is where we try to give as many resources as we can and break it down as best as possible on this recycling guide. So our recycling quick guide, again, is just our general guide. We have our magnet over there and pieces of paper in the back as well. But our recycling guide pamphlet is where we get into the more details. On the back of it, it tells you where you can get a recycling bin, household battery drop off, plastic film drop off, all that jazz. This goes into our home recycling again, curbside. We're trying to reduce as much litter as we can on the streets. I know Mother Nature does her thing. It's just with the wind. So that's why we're trying to get out our bin as late as possible. It's not a perfect world, unfortunately. I have to go to work a lot earlier than I have to put out my recycling bin. So we ask that you try to pack it as best as possible, you know, break down and forward those boxes, cardboard boxes, and then stack them up and put them on the side if you can. Use those to kind of weigh down lighter items that might be on your plastics list, and then put the heavier items on top as best as possible. So think about your litter as you put out your bin and as you're packing your bin. You know, it's not the easiest thing if you're going convenience wise, but again, you know, trying to help the environment as best as possible by reducing waste. So these are our other recyclable items that we were talking about here. Uh-oh. Hold on. So let's get into caps actually quick. So we're going to talk about caps real quick. So caps that, you know, may come on your milk containers that might be different material. So we go by a credit card rule. I don't have my badge on me. So anything the size of a credit card or smaller, we ask that you please throw in the garbage because it's not going to be picked up by the recycling facility.
So rip the thing out, the plastic nozzle and cap?
So if it's in
Yeah.
it's in the container, the carton, that's fine. But if it's a separate piece completely, like a soda bottle top.
Yeah.
So I usually tell the kids, if it's got a friend, send it with its friend. If it's the same material type. So like if you've got a Coke container and you get the red top and you take it off and it screws back on, send it with its friend. Send it with its friend.
And then with milk?
Yep, so if it's gonna be a milk container and it's got the same type, so it's usually the same type. So if it's got a friend of the same type, send it on its way with that. But if it's something that you find that milk carton lid or that random bottle top on the floor and it doesn't have a friend, just throw it in the garbage.
So
What do
we
you
keep
mean
it,
by
we keep it screwed on.
Yep, if it,
It's like that, okay, no,
Yep.
the caps are plastic.
so if it's got a friend and it's made of the same material type, so that nozzle is made out of the same material type and it can go back on it,
Okay.
just put it back on
It's
it
okay if,
Yep.
if it has a plastic nozzle and a plastic
Yep.
cap.
and it'll be just fine.
So we rinse it out
Rinse it out,
and then put the cap back on.
yep,
And-
so send it with the friend it came with.
And same,
I would say crush it first before you put the cap back on,
yeah, take.
so it takes up less room,
Yeah.
right?
And then
Yep.
when we bring back redeemable soda cans, soda bottles, we can put the caps back on. I would take the caps off.
Yep, so if it has a friend, so if I came with it, if it came with me, it's
Yeah.
going home with me
No, like what was-
as best as possible. So
Okay.
if it's small enough and it's smaller than a credit card, if it has a friend, send it with its friend. But if
Have
it-
your friend, throw it away.
If the friend ditches it and leaves it in the middle of the street, please put it in the garbage, because it's gonna fall through all that equipment, and it's just gonna go in the garbage anyways, it's not gonna be picked up. If it's something like a sauce container, like a spaghetti sauce container,
Yeah.
and it's got the plastic jar with the metal lid, that's something that is big enough that it'll make it. So it's not something that's smaller. If it's the size of a credit card or bigger, so like that's pretty much, you know, the width of a credit card, that's fine. And it's a metal, so it'll get picked up.
So we just keep it screwed on, if it's a glass jar on a metal top, we keep the metal card
Yep, if you,
screwed on the glass jar.
yeah, either way, it'll get handled when it's there.
Okay,
It's just
okay.
pretty much the size, it doesn't get handled. Material type doesn't necessarily matter in that situation, it's more of the size, that's the concern at this point. Yes,
So I'm trying to follow through on your example here. I'm not trying to be picky, but some of these, cartons that have the plastic, spout and the cap on top, they have a little ring that you pull out to actually bring the seal inside. So that little part that you pull out with the ring, toss that in the garbage, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, I'm not saving the range.
Yes. so,
No,
so like even if you get like, I use coffee creamer. So if I'm using coffee creamer and I pull out that little plastic stopper.
Yeah.
That's gonna be garbage. And if you wanna save the turtles or save the
Cut the ring.
ducks
Cut the
or
ring.
whatever, cut the ring,
Cut the ring.
cut the ring,
Cut the ring.
cut the ring. But that's something that's gonna be garbage. The cap that you screw back on, send it along. It'll go right with it. But if it does not have a friend, the friend is lost, just throw it away. So anything that's smaller than a credit card is gonna be garbage. That goes for anything, any type of plastic, anything along those lines. Metal is different because it can get picked up by the currents, so the plastics, if it's smaller than a credit card, we say, please throw it away. All right, so these are our other recyclable items. We have our Broome County landfill guide up here as well. Over here, household hazardous waste and electronics over there as well, and our household hazardous waste collection schedule up front if needed. Again, all of these are available online, or if you need to reach out to me directly, feel free. I don't mind sending them along. This is for 2025, this hazardous waste schedule, but it has alternative collection sites on the back if you want it. But that we're putting out the 2026 version very shortly. So I'll post it on our website. So other things that are recyclable. On the left, we have our examples. On the right is where you can take it. So right now in Broome County, we have tires that are considered recyclable. So recyclable meaning, you know, they're not going to be recyclable curbside, but they can be recycled in different capacities. So we don't recycle tires curbside, but we do recycle them and we make them into our plastic, our jar openers over here. So you can take them to the landfill within Broome County. You do have to pay to dispose of them, but we do recycle them. We do have a recycling contract that I manage to get them picked up and shipped out and properly handled. Yes.
Where you send the rubber tires, to have them made,
So this is something that is made through 4Imprint that we have.
through what?
We actually bought these through 4Imprint, but they get them from different entities. So we didn't make those ourselves. We don't do any of that recycling ourselves. We collect them and we handle it.
Been made in China for all we know.
Gotta be-
Okay.
I didn't specify where they were from before I got here, so my apologies. I could tell you when I get back to the office.
So I noticed that this doesn't like have to do with talking about. For the tires, they've been selling, shredded tires for, pretty smokes.
Mhm.
Smokes, but everything I read about them indicates that when they leach into the soil, they feel like earthworms. Like, I'm just, you know, so
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, you know, if it's, not that you control where it goes,
Mhm.
but is there really any good reuse of tires anymore?
Yeah, so that's the tricky part, is that there's always some sort of necessary evil
Right,
that goes
they
along
don't use
with
it
it.
on the playgrounds. I remember they used to hit those tires. Yeah,
Yeah.
they stopped doing that. And sooner or later, people are gonna realize that they're poisoning their ground. You know, when they're putting it around their flowers
Yeah.
and, you know, it's not any good for the soil.
Yeah, so that's the tough part, is that, you know, you think you're doing something good, but it could turn out to be something like that. You know, when they do a lot of it, that, you know, they shred it and they process it into the crumb rubber. Again, they were using it at playgrounds, different things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it really just depends on who's putting it together, because, you know, when they do turf fields, they usually put liners down. But again, you can't stop the water from going into it. So that's pretty much, you know, the leaching into the soil is, again, why we don't want these things into our landfill.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, stuff can leach into our landfill. and into
But
the
they're
environment.
leaching, I mean, I see some of my neighbors. Fire, shredded fire.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
And that's horrible, because we live right over the aqueduct.
yeah. Yeah, so that's what, like, sometimes it's not always the best use for it, but they're giving it another life, so they technically are doing good, so it goes back and forth. Another thing that can be recycled are household batteries. We have 4 locations that we manage through Broome County, solid waste. We have the landfill, SUNY Broome Ice Center, so in the back of the ice center, we have these big white containers, that we ask that you separate the batteries, the Broome County Library, and Wegmans. Did I skip Wegmans? Yep, so when you go to Wegmans, if you're looking at the front doors on the left side, that's where our bin is. We are currently trying to revamp them and make them prettier and more accessible. So bear with us on that. That's me. I'm trying my best. Yep.
Sorry to bring this up, but what about rechargeable batteries?
So so this gets into a lot of like the extended producer responsibility, the EPR programs. You know, we're trying to get more people to be accountable for what they make, especially like rechargeable batteries. So a lot of hardware stores like Lowe's, Home Depot will take them back. But we don't take back the big rechargeable ones at our locations. It's more like button batteries, alkaline, double, AAA kind of deals. So we take any kind of the household batteries back at these locations, but they do take them back, rechargeable batteries at the hardware stores.
So I'm trying to clarify what you just said. So if it's a small, like AA or AAA battery, for example, and it's rechargeable, a lithium ion battery, are those acceptable at those bins that are, you know, recycled?
Yes, so the rechargeable ones are fine, but like I thought you were talking about the big, like
So how about-
grill batteries
How
kind
about
of
the
deal.
affordable?
Okay.
Yeah. So we just pretty much ask that you tape the ends and put them in plastic bags if you can. You know, plastic bags aren't the best option, but that's what we have in order to stop them from touching the ends together and creating
Do we
fires.
separate them?
Take them with
We'll just take the ends and throw them all.
You can tape the ends and just put them all together if you want, but you
Tape
know,
them with just Scotch tape?
Yep.
Okay.
yep, any like kind of plastic tape. They're pretty much just shredded and then they are separated based on the metal components with different chemical and thermal methods. But we do manage those 4 locations. There are other locations that take batteries back, but these are the 4 we manage, and they're also on the back of the program. Let's see, waste oil, oil filters and antifreeze, we do collect at the landfill. Car repair shops also take them back as well. They might just have a volume limit. We only accept up to 5 gallons per day. It's refined into base oil and could be turned into fuel or refined into new products like gasoline, as needed. We also have a scrap metal contract that we take at the landfill. You do have to pay to dispose of it. Other local outlets, you can get paid to dispose of it. So, you know, I think like Gary's Utilities used to do it, Ben Weitzman, different outlets like that. If you don't want to pay to get rid of it, you can check out different outlets. Again, sorted and shredded, compacted, cleaned, and purified, solidified into new scrap metal products. Last but not least is our film plastics. So our plastic bags, our air pillows, our bubble wrap, anything that might come in the mail. Like Amazon has those plastic bags, bubble mailers from the USPS, anything that is just that general film plastic. They don't really do plastic bags anymore, but in stores. But if you do have plastic bags, these can be returned to any box or grocery stores. They're cleaned, shredded, and melted into pellets, and can be turned into different items. So this is a lot of what we're doing now. Plastic can be shredded and chipped into hard material like this. Then it can be pelletized, and it can, once it's pelletized, it can be woven into different polyester materials, like this yarn.
So the film plastics, we can return to box stores.
Yep.
What's a box?
So any kind, Wegmans takes them, so any kind of like grocery store kind of what it's referring to. Wegmans, Weiss, Price Chopper, it really depends on the location and the entity of how they collect them and where they collect them. But they do take them back. You might just have to ask.
Do we need to separate them?
Yeah, I
Or can
know.
I have a big plastic bag of plastic bags and then the Amazon mailers and all that together and just drop them off away? So
Yep.
So does,
I don't have to separate.
does that include the mailers that are paper or like cardboard on the outside and plastic on the inside?
No, those are gonna be garbage. So if it's fully plastic, it's good.
I'm sorry, you said it was film, plastic, what that's the only thing.
So any of like the thin,
Red bag.
yeah, like kind of grab baggy material, anything, it's kind of like the base material of, like a plastic bag, like the old style plastic bags. So it kind of goes from plastic bags to plastic mailers. Anything like Amazon comes in like sometimes just regular bags that they want you to, rip open and send back. You can return if you want. Anything like,
When it says the fit, plastic fit.
yep, Wegmans will have it,
Paper bag.
You said Weiss does as well.
Weiss,
Just basically any plastic things that come in plastic bags.
yes. So, and that,
Basically, we can recycle.
yeah, and it goes along with, if you buy a big container of, a big plastic bag of paper towels.
Yeah.
So how they're individually wrapped usually.
Yeah.
So that individual wrapping plus the big wrapping that it comes in like at Sam's Club,
Yeah.
those are considered foam plastics.
Oh,
Oh, my goodness. What do I
Toilet
know
paper?
about that?
Toilet paper rolls
Yeah.
that come in the plastic, those are film plastic. Water bottle containers, like the Poland Spring things that you pick up, the big cases, those are film plastics. The more you think about it, the more film plastics you run into. So feel free to shove those in a bag and send them right back.
One bag. And
Yep.
throw them-
And they'll decipher it from there. So those are all considered foam plastics. So they're recyclable, but they're not recyclable curbside.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are other recyclable items that are not curbside, but can be, if you take the extra minute, you could recycle them elsewhere. Yes.
We need some.
This might be a little gray area, but what about those, they're thicker plastic, but they hold like soda bottles together, like in a six pack. You know what I mean? And it's just, the top of the bottle is shoved through,
Yeah,
and sometimes they hold cans too, sometimes.
yeah.
What do you do with those?
So those are just gonna be regular garbage.
Okay, so snip them.
Yeah, cut them up for this,
Cut 'em
for
up
the
for
turtles and the seals. Yes,
Snip the circle,
yes. So
Oh, Lord.
unfortunately, recyclable has many different meanings of, making items into new, but it doesn't always mean curbside. So sometimes you have to read into it a little bit. It might say that it's recyclable, but it doesn't say it's recyclable curbside in your general area. They're not gonna make a specific, cardboard box recyclable for Broome County, and they're gonna put it on there recyclable in Broome County. They're just gonna mass produce it, and that we have to figure it out ourselves. So again, this is where the education comes in, the wishy-washy, all that fun stuff.
How generally would all of this information apply to other counties in state of New York?
So across New York, it's pretty general, but it's pretty much when you hit different states.
When you
That's-
hit the state, it could be.
Yeah. So each county has their own program, has their own rules and regulations. We're pretty much the same as Tyler County. They could have things that are different. I don't know. But we usually try to base it off each other, keep everything the same locally as best we can. But again, they don't have the blue bins like us that say Broome County on them. There's different things like that, but it's pretty much, New York has the same kind of guidelines. It's just, when you start traveling across the country, some states don't even recycle.
Thank you.
It's pretty much based on your state. Textiles. I think that's something that we wanted to talk about. Textiles are tricky. They are very few direct routes to recycling textiles. Again, textiles can be recycled and made into new items, but they cannot be recycled curbside. This is something that is constantly in the news of trying to make it better, but how do we do it? We are all trying to make the world a better place with recycling, but how do we do it? How do you recycle textiles? So these are statistics that I got from the DEC's website that's linked below, in orange. So on their textile reuse and recycling page, 20% of post-consumer clothing, footwear, and household textiles like curtains, cloths, things along those lines are sold at thrift stores. So anything, that you put into that that textile recycling system, only 20% of it is resold.
Oh. Yeah.
So of the 80% that's left, so this is not gonna add up to 80%, this is gonna be 100% of the 80 that's left, so. Makes sense in my brain, but, so this does not add up to 80, it adds up to 100. So 100% of the 80% that's left. 45% are reused as clothing, so they'll bale it, they'll sell it, and they'll break it down and make it into new items. It's not sold as clothing, it's baled up kind of like the recycling, and it's made into new items. 20% are recycled into fibers, so this would be carpet padding, insulation, carpet itself, even different things that aren't, as specific of material. It could be just an entire grouping of material. 30% are used as cloths for industrial and residential applications. So again, just cut up and used as cloth, nothing more to it. And then 5% of that ends up as waste. So not terrible. So it's good to make the effort if you can, to try to reduce that waste rather than just throwing it away. There are uses for your beat up, ratty clothes at some point, even if they're cut up as rags, they're still going to be used again and gives that a little bit more life before it hits the landfill. So again, there are very few direct routes for recycling textiles. Some of the major textile collectors in New York State will be Goodwill, the Salvation Army, and St. Pauli's Textiles. Drop boxes, collection boxes, things like that. They do take stuff, even if it's not to be sold on the storefront, they will process it and send it out as textile waste to be recycled. Something that we stress with this is to call before you donate, just to make sure they take it, because every collection site is different. So they might not take it at one spot versus another. Salvation Army's maybe closing versus opening. Different thrift stores. This is not an all-inclusive list. This is just Recycle Right New York's general guide to New York State itself. So we do urge you to call before you donate, just so you don't get someplace where they're just gonna throw it out. We'd rather, try a couple different options. There's, in our area, we have Salvation Army and Goodwill and Thrift Up, different options. So if you can't find one that'll take it, there hopefully should be another within the Broome County area that will take it. So target items for the day. Again, not all resin codes are recyclable. We're going by the grouping that can be found in your recycling guide. We'll go by categories as best we can. If there's anything specific, please reach out and I can look into it for you or answer specifically. Again, egg cartons do not belong in the curbside bins, whether they're cardboard or they're styrofoam. We just ask that you don't put them there, find another reuse for them before you throw them away. Takeout containers are not recyclable. Takeout containers are different from our food containers. Our food containers are going to be mayo, mustard, peanut butter. We ask that you rinse those and put them in the recycling bin. Recyclable does not always mean recyclable curbside. That goes for our batteries, our film plastics, our tires. If can be recycled at some point, you just might have to take an extra step. A lot of things you can send back in different programs via mail to be recycled if you're really, concerned about the environment at that point. Small items may not make it through the recycling process. That goes back to our credit card rule. If it has a friend, send it with its friend. If not, and it's a loan, please throw it away. Also, single-use plastics are not recyclable. Anything that you get that's, a plastic cup, plastic plate, plastic forks, it's all going to be garbage. It's very low quality plastic and it's just going to end up in the landfill anyways. Something that probably needs to be said more than others is that if you put it in your recycling bin it's gonna go to the materials recovery facility. This is where the tricky misconceptions happen. If you put your recyclable items in the garbage, they will end up at the landfill. If you do not go through the time, put it in the recycling bin and give it the chance to be recycled, it will go to the landfill. There is not a recycling ferry that comes in and swoops your stuff out of the landfill. That we don't have enough staff, it's very dangerous for any municipality to truck that garbage up and go through and pick through it. They don't have the time, they don't have the staff, it's not worth the money to be at that capacity. So if you put it in the recycling bin and give it the chance to be recycled, it will go to that materials recovery facility and have a chance. But once it hits the garbage and hits your garbage bag and hits that garbage truck, it will hit the landfill. So there's no giant magical truck that takes all of our recycling to the landfill. That's not how it works. It doesn't even hit the landfill facility unless you drop it off at the bins at the landfill. Then we take it from the landfill to the materials recovery facility. But if it hits your recycling bin, it will hit the recycling facility. If it's contaminated, that's when it gets tricky and it goes to the landfill. If a load is contaminated, it might go to the landfill from there. But again, that's based on the materials recovery facility.
So I remember when recycling first came to my hometown back in the nineties. They really stressed that you should err on the side of throwing something out if you weren't sure.
Yes.
Now you're saying we're going the other way, you err on the side of trying to recycle it?
So, tripping up my words there. So when in doubt, throw it out.
Yes,
That's where main thing. When in doubt, throw it out. But
that still goes.
that still goes. But I'm trying to express that we are not taking our recycling trucks with your recycling to the landfill. That's not how it's working. A lot of people come up to me and say, well, I hear that they're dumping plastic loads in the landfill. Not in Broome County. Just gonna tell you that, not in Broome County. That's what I'm trying to get there. When in doubt, throw it out. If you're confused or concerned, just throw it out. But if if it has a chance and it's on our list, please give it a chance to be recycled in the materials recovery facility. But we are not trucking plastics or any recycling to the landfill, I promise.
Yeah, but I just want to confirm, plastic containers that food come in,
Mhm.
all of those are recyclable now?
If it doesn't have any mold or.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
once it's
yeah.
cleaned up, everyone.
Yeah.
And we had mentioned the lettuce containers, the plastic containers, and the lid comes off and
So-
that's recyclable?
So
too?
if the lid comes off and it has that film plastic on it,
No, it doesn't.
It's
Oh,
a
no.
thicker plastic.
It's, no, yeah, it would.
No,
No,
material
because
is sealed.
it's sealed with the plastic seal, it's all molded
Oh,
together
oh,
and
oh,
then you
yeah.
rip it off. But
That's
then you
fine.
put it back on again,
yep,
that's
that's fine. Yep,
recyclable. I just thought that
It's-
was,
Yep.
because it doesn't have a number.
That's
Yep,
hard to
you're
do.
Right.
I know what you're talking about
Yeah,
now.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry to bring this up again, but a clear plastic, relatively stiff, egg carton. They do make those and they sell them, like organic eggs and whites are in clear plastic
Oh, yeah.
cartons. Is
Are they?
that recyclable or no?
Peach,
I've never seen them. Huh.
well, peach.
They're common.
Yeah, they have.
Who's the other one?
They're not
They're
styrofoam.
fully plastic?
And they're not cardboard, they're,
Cage-free,
it's clear plastic.
clear plastic.
And it's got eggs, and
They're
then
more
it usually has like a cardboard, label underneath the,
Yeah.
the top of the lid that opens. Sometimes they open 3 times. The top opens and then there's another thing that opens that's egg shaped.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of plastic for
Yeah,
just
a lot of
eggs,
eggs.
but they do exist at the
It's
store.
probably a resin coating.
Yeah, the expensive cage-free comes in that.
Okay,
Yeah,
let me look into it before I give you an answer. I'll send it.
you can
via
send it by
email.
email.
Yes, I will definitely look into that because I'll have to go to the store and look because I've honestly never seen them.
Yeah, it's clear plastic,
Huh.
with just a little bit of cardboard in it maybe, or
Okay.
maybe a stick-on label.
But there is like
Yeah.
a plastic.
Yeah, I will. I'll give that a look for sure. Yep.
You know any place that recycles insulated copper wires, like Christmas tree lights, stuff like that?
Tough topic. But so, I think,
Pretty valuable, you figured somebody.
don't quote me on this, but Ben Weitzman might take them back. I obviously called before. to double check the location that you're going to, but I think they're starting to do a Christmas tree recycling light program, Christmas light recycling program. I am currently trying to reach out to different scrap metal dealers to see if they will do a program with us. So that's something that's up in the air. We're trying to get more holiday recycling, a little bit more widespread throughout the county. So that's something that we're looking into, but the only place that they used to do it at Lowe's and Home Depot, but when I've called the local Lowe's and Home Depot, they have told me no the past 3 years. So they used to do it before I started, but now they have not been taking them at those facilities. So it's something that I check on every year, but from the grapevine, I've heard that Ben Weitzman is doing something along those lines.
This is something from way back. There was a big fight a long time ago when Broome County was considering incinerating.
Yep.
And you mentioned a little bit early on in one of your first few slides about incineration, and there's a lot of reasons why you don't want to incinerate anything that, you know, is plastic or has got other materials in it altogether. Because when you incinerate plastics, you make all kinds of other compounds that are unpredictable as to what kind of toxic recombination compounds can happen at high temperature. And so if anybody at Broome County thinks about ever doing this again to try to generate, you know, electricity and say that this is good and that we can reduce our waste stream or our recycling stream or something that's difficult to recycle, just tell them not a good idea. And there's places where you can find out how bad that really is.
Yeah, so there's obviously, you know, good and bad with everything. I can't, you know, promote or, you know, shoo people away from ideas like that. You know, it is what it is, but I can't give the concrete, you know, answer to that one way or another. But there is, you know, harm with everything as it goes, you know, and incineration could just leave it back into the environment, you know, cause issues like that, you know, but again, that really, there's good and bad with everything as we go. So I can't give professional,
You know, it's probably painful, it's okay.
but I know I can
Bring it up.
yes, I know what you're talking about, you know, and that's also why it's lower on our hierarchy list. We'd rather make new material with it than, you know, burn it and release those different chemicals and create energy with it. So, you know, it's an option, but also the landfill's an option. It's kind of, you know, give and take. So it is an option, but it's lower on our desirable list of waste disposal. Yep.
Does the county do any composting with a view to reuse yard waste or perhaps vegetable waste?
So we do not have a curbside compost program right now, but the Broome County landfill does offer a compost program. You do have to pay to dispose of it. It's more of your yard waste aspect of it, grass clippings, branches, trees, stumps. We do have somebody that comes in and creates compost with it. We keep it in windrows and we turn it as needed. And then we give it back in our free compost give back program. So if you want compost and you're from Broome County, you do have to load it yourself, but you're, any day that we're open, anytime that we're open, you're more than welcome to come in and get compost for free. But we cannot guarantee, you know, that it's state of the art. You know, there is, you know, if you treat your lawn and you bring your grass clippings up to the landfill, it could have stuff like that in it.
Yeah.
So, you know, would I use it on food? I don't know. But I'm not a composting expert, but we do have a program where we give it back for free, but it does include, you know, any kind of, you know, pesticides from, like, you know, if you spray your apple trees and you have that kind of waste and then you bring it to the landfill, it could, you know, we don't really regulate that end of it. So it's not regulated, but we do give it back for free if you want it. So it's all that fun stuff.
Sorry, but can the general public bring stuff there?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Broome County landfill is open for anybody in Broome County.
Yeah, but I mean the club.
Compost. So we don't have like a specific compost program for vegetables or vegetable scraps or food scraps or anything along those lines. You know, it's always been in the works in conversation. I think they are doing a study for the landfill on, you know, what's feasible, because the food scrap laws are changing as we move on. You know, if you generate a certain amount of waste and you're within this certain radius, you do have to truck it to, compost facilities, and I think the closest one is in Ithaca. So if you make enough waste, you do have to truck it and take care of it, but it's very inconvenient for people that are local. So they're trying to expand that law and get more people to compost food scraps. So it is, you know, a feasibility study that's hopefully within short amount of time here, but I can't talk on it specifically because I don't have details. But it is something that is talked about, very frequently, is trying to expand, the landfill facility for different, composting options. So you can bring up any kind of yard waste, leaves, grass clippings, you know, trees, tree roots, anything like that. And we will turn it into compost, but we don't have anything specifically for food scraps.
That's really more of a mulch.
Yeah, it's kind of like mulch, but yeah.
I have a question about, shredding for utilities. I know because that's not recyclable, that's shredded, that's why you guys do the shredding.
Mhm.
Can you bring already shredded paper to us?
I won't tell you now.
No, like in my office, like you have a shredder, but
Mhm.
like that needs to throw away, and I'm like, oh, throw it away, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what, like, we try to tell people to hold on to it, but it's not always convenient.
Yeah.
So it's kind of call in advance, as you, if you know, Staples takes it back, but you have to pay for it. If you call and you don't have a ton of it, I won't tell you no at our event because I don't tell anybody no.
I just four boxes, but you said, $4.
If you know someone that composts at home, they might be able to use it. We put our shredded paper in our compost,
Okay.
and, we don't have a lot, so it's not like an
Yeah.
awesome amount. But it would make wet compost dry up.
And that's what,
Okay.
people can use it for, like, bedding for animals, things like that. So, you know, it's never a bad thing to put it out there, but again, it is it's supposed to be shredded up and not have any information on it. So, I mean, it's like, it's up to you, like, how comfortable you are with that.
Yeah.
So, end of the day, why does it matter? Again, wish cycling slows down the recycling process, could ruin loads. Same thing with contamination. Try to keep it as clean as possible. Tanglers can tangle up equipment. Hazardous waste can cause fires and causes safety issues for staff. And a lot of it goes back to the market value. If we can do our best with recycling and keep it as clean as possible, the want and the need for those recycled materials, if they're clean, is going to go up, and we're going to get a better turnout with our recycled content. Again, at the end of the day, what can we do? Reduce, reuse, recycle as best as you can. Try to find a different outlet. Think more than just end of life before you get there. Our tips for the end are: when in doubt, throw it out. Think before you toss. Communicate to your friends. Ask them if they know how to recycle it. If you're confused, feel free to call me. Check your local guidelines. Check the internet. It's not always right for each specific county, but always try to give your friends some tips. Credit card rule, again, smaller than a credit card, please throw it out. Rinse before you recycle. Choose to reuse. Reuse your mugs, reuse your water bottles. Give it one more life before you throw it to the end of life. Target waste reduction. Donate when you can, and check your local guidelines. And that is it. So again, I could go on for hours, and I've gone on for hours. If it's very confusing and it's very tough to give you a straight answer on a lot of things, it's because of this, because of that. So a lot of things change as we go, you know, with Casella getting Taylor Garbage. They are a bigger company that has more connections, bigger outlets to send stuff. So they might start expanding their collections. Again, it really just depends on your area and how it's going. So if we, continue to recycle properly, they could expand markets for things like takeout containers or single-use plastics or Dunkin' Donuts cups. They could find use for that, but it's pretty much using your voice, doing it properly, and spreading awareness, so.
One last quick question.
Yeah.
Now, the contracts for the MRFs changes every once in a while. Does the policies that you just went through change if you do it, like, would the other MRF do it differently, and therefore that you'd have to change some of the things you do?
It really just depends, like, the only thing that's really changing is with Casella having more options, you know, they might take a little bit more and have like more options. Like they're trying to bring in like mattress recycling, things like that otherwise, but they basically base it off of what we say. So we kind of set the overview for the entire county. So if you're in Broome County, then that's how it goes.
What I'm asking is, if you went to another MRF and they said, well, we don't do it that way, do we change or do we make them change?
I've never ran into that, honestly. I guess it would really depend on what it is, like, if it's like a specific material type, like, it's, like, we do require source separation as a law within Broome County. So, you know, we would have to make them change, and they would have to, we probably honestly wouldn't even accept the contract, because they wouldn't be able to follow our local guidelines. But we do have source separation laws within Broome County that, require us to follow these kind of rules, but they base it off of what we have. So then they have to find markets for it. Yep.
Sorry, one last thing, because you also know about the landfill. Landfills, from anaerobic decomposition, which you mentioned in an early slide, they produce methane. What does Broome County do with the methane that comes out of that landfill? Do they flare it? Do they attempt to collect it? Is there talk of attempting to collect it? Do something with it, like generate electricity on site, or?
I can't speak specifically because I'm not super familiar with the, that specific process. We do capture some of the gas for a gas to energy facility, and we do have a flare. But, I think it goes back on site. I'm not positive. I can't speak specifically of what ratios go where, how it's used, but I know we do gas collection and we do have a flare if needed, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to go into the landfill itself, that could be a whole nother talk of all that jazz,
All right.
but I'm not specifically, unfortunately, I can't speak to that 100% sure, but. So if you have any questions, you know, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. If anything's confusing, I do ramble a lot, so it does get confusing even in my own brain. So feel free to take anything that you need up here. If you need any guides or any questions, you know, again, check out our website. We've got a Facebook page and an Instagram account. I'm trying to get more stuff going there, but we will have more information coming up in the future about our composting, home composting programs and things like that. So keep an eye out for that.